few weeks ago, the HBO show Euphoria had its season 3 premiere, and within a few hours, it was everywhere online. But not for the reason you'd expect. No one was talking about the outfits, or the hair, or even the show itself. They were talking about how the cast looked. Because half of them stepped out on that red carpet looking like hollowed out versions of their former selves. And I don't just mean that they were skinny, because let's face it, Hollywood has always been skinny. This is different. It's an unbelievable level of skinny where it actually changes your proportions, where everything looks suctioned in like someone was standing behind them with the vacuum cleaner. The shoulders, the arms, the faces, it's all just less. And when you compare that to how they looked at the season 1 premiere, it's safe to say it had a lot of people concerned. But the scary thing is that it's not just the Euphoria ladies that look like this now. Nearly every woman in Hollywood is stepping out looking unbelievably thin to the point where people can't stop talking about it. I already did a video on this topic a few months ago and nearly 900,000 people watched it, which just tells me that this problem is only getting bigger. But here's what I didn't say in that video. I truly believe that this goes so much deeper than everyone's been talking about, and the shrinking bodies is only just the symptom. Have you ever wondered why all the celebrities who used to have big personalities now no longer say a word? The women like Emma Stone, who used to be the loudest in the room, now barely cracks a smile. You probably haven't paid attention to it before, but I promise you that you will now, and I believe that this is all connected. That something is forcing women to not only shrink their bodies, but shrink their identities, and we are so deep inside of it that most of us can't even see it's happening. And that's dangerous because we are also falling victim to it. Today, I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean, so buckle up because things are about to get very real. I wanted to start this by saying that I used to be a ballerina, and if you know anything about that world, then you will know it is absolutely brutal. I wasn't just told that I had to be skinny, I was weighed on scales in front of everyone, told I had to lose weight from places that wasn't even physically possible, and forced to only drink hot water because apparently cold water makes you lose fat slower. I highly doubt that last one is scientifically accurate, but ballet is just very, very old school. And I did this in a full-time class of about 30 other people who were all being told the same thing, to look exactly the same. I know what that kind of comparison does to your brain when everyone around you is trying to fit into this one ideal. And yes, obviously ballet is a very extreme example, but these girls, Ariana Grande and Alexa Demie, they look skinnier than me when I was doing ballet, so I don't think we're very far off. When I talk about this issue, I'm not talking about people like Meghan Trainor who went from being plus size to now slim. I'm talking about the people who were already skinny and now look gaunt. Emma Stone, Olivia Wilde, Demi Moore. It's like every few weeks another celebrity will come out looking alarmingly skinny. One of the reasons I made my video a few months ago was because of the discourse around the Wicked cast. Because it wasn't just Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, it was Michelle Yeoh as well. When you compare them to how they looked before filming, the difference is absolutely insane. Cynthia Erivo said in a recent interview that they had worked themselves to the bone whilst making this movie, and yeah, it looks like they weren't lying. And look, I know that there's the argument that we shouldn't be commenting on women's bodies, but I want you to think about how big Wicked is, especially for young girls. Girls who idolize Ariana and Cynthia, who went out to buy their Barbie dolls, dolls based on them, their faces and their bodies. So you can't say don't talk about their bodies when their bodies are literally being turned into products for kids. Of course I have sympathy for these women, especially Ariana Grande, whose body has been a popular topic of discussion for the past few years. Fans were so concerned for her well-being after seeing how skinny she looked at the Wicked premiere that they flooded her Instagram with comments of support. This led Ariana to releasing her own video addressing the comments. When I first watched it, I thought it was gonna be the usual don't spread hate but thank you for the support kind of speech, but imagine my shock when I heard her say that she is the healthiest she's ever been. This is what she's saying is the healthiest she's ever been. That is where I draw the line. I am all for empathy and support, but when you are sending this message to your 380 million followers, what do you think that does to them? In the new Wicked movie, you could literally see her sternum. That is how thin she was. And you're telling your fan base of young girls that you are the healthiest you've ever been? I can't tell you how wrong that is. Because I can guarantee you that most of those fans have no idea how deep the Ariana Grande lore goes. They have no idea that she used to live on these toxic body Tumblr pages where she'd engage in this type of ED behavior. Every day she would post about what she ate and showing off how skinny she was. was. Of course, I'm not gonna sit here and diagnose her with anything, but what I am saying is that that mindset sounds very familiar and is exactly why I'm not staying silent. Not when it seems like every woman in Hollywood is now following in her footsteps. Going back to the Euphoria premiere, Alexa Demie was pretty much all anyone could talk about, mainly out of pure concern. A few months ago, I mentioned that there was this inside story that came from the season 3 filming of Euphoria. Sources said that Alexa Demie allegedly passed out on set multiple times because she refused to eat anything. There was also other rumors that she was allegedly taking Ozempic as well. Now, obviously, these are just strictly rumors, but seeing how she looked at the Euphoria premiere really broke my heart. It reminded me of how I felt when I heard that a YouTuber that I loved, Tana Mojo, also takes Ozempic, even though she's a perfectly normal weight. Whilst I really appreciate that she's so open about it, at the same time, it's like, why? Why is Ozempic so popular with celebrities that are already skinny? And that question honestly hurt me so bad that I needed to get to the bottom of what was actually happening here, because I don't think it's as easy as blaming it on the rise of Ozempic. Whilst I do agree that that definitely plays a factor, I think that these weight loss drugs are just a simple solution to a much deeper problem. Tell me, have you noticed anything else that's changed with these celebrities? You know, besides the fact that they are 10 times smaller than they were 5 years ago? Because I have, and it actually exposes the root of all of this. The way I figured this out was by going back and looking properly through the timeline. Because when you track the beauty standards from the 2000s to now, you will see that bodies is only just the surface. There is another shift that's happening underneath it, and it is so much bigger than just body image. As you probably know, the early 2000s beauty standard was absolutely brutal. And I don't even think brutal is a harsh enough word to describe it. We're talking about a time where Kate Moss was the blueprint, where nothing tastes as good as skinny feels was a motivational quote that people had on their walls. You had these ultra thin bodies that were being pushed everywhere, from red carpets to music videos to fashion campaigns. Think Paris Hilton, Nicole Richie, Lindsay Lohan. That very specific, extremely skinny look was everywhere. This was the era of low-rise jeans, where your stomach was basically on display at all times, whether you wanted it to be or not. Being skinny wasn't just a beauty standard, it was a requirement. Because if you weren't a size 0, then you were basically ripped apart. You had entire magazines dedicated to zooming in on women's bodies in bikinis and circling the tiniest bit of cellulite like it was a crime scene. And then they would put these pictures on the front page with a headline like, "This fatty is really letting herself go." And the movies from this era, you could not go 5 seconds without hearing a fat joke.
You know Natalie, who works here?
The chubby girl?
Ooh, would we call her chubby?
I think there's a pretty sizable ass there, yes sir. Huge thighs.
But here's the interesting and complicated thing about the 2000s. Yes, the beauty standard was brutal, but these women still had individuality. People had distinct styles, distinct personalities, distinct energy. You could tell the difference between them instantly. But even more than that, these girls weren't afraid to be loud or messy. They made mistakes, they had opinions, they said the wrong things, and it didn't feel like they were trying to shrink that part of themselves to fit into anything. Then came the 2010s, where things drastically changed. Kim Kardashian's BBL was basically the second coming of Christ. It had so much power that it single-handedly ended the skinny era and started a new one. Curves. The ideal look was essentially big butt, big chest, with a tiny waist and a flat stomach. Which sounds inclusive on paper, until you realize that somehow this standard was even more impossible to achieve than the last one. Because at least with the 2000s body, you could achieve it by not eating, but with this new body, you could only achieve it by having a $30,000 surgery. But here were the Kardashians online telling people that if they just did a couple of squats and drink the detox tea that they were selling, then they could look exactly like them. It was a bunch of BS. Something that stood out to me apart from the body types was that the women in this era were loud. Like unapologetically loud. Rihanna, Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, these are the type of women who would be up at 2 AM beefing with people on Twitter. They just had this edge to them, and this was pretty much where the girl boss era kind of began. Gosh, I'm getting so sick of saying the word era. By the late 2010s, body standards were out and body positivity was in. There were plus size models at Fashion Week, Ashley Graham was on the cover of magazines, and Lizzo was releasing music that was all about loving the body you're in. For the first time in a long time, it felt like people were finally pushing back against everything that was pushed onto us. People were tired, people wanted to be seen, and more than anything, people wanted realness, and surprisingly, celebrities gave them exactly that. For the first time ever, celebrities were actually being authentic. They were crying on Instagram lives, they were posting without makeup, they were openly talking about their mental health struggles. They were oversharing in ways that we had never seen before, and people genuinely loved them for it. But flash forward to now, and something has changed. I can't tell you exactly when or even point to a specific person, but somewhere between the year 2020 and now, the energy shifted. Because if you look at the biggest female celebrities now, and I mean really look, something is missing. No one is saying anything. No one is doing anything. No one has an opinion that might make someone uncomfortable. There is just nothing. Seriously, think about all the celebrities that I mentioned at the start of this video. I truly believe that it's not only their bodies that have shrunk, but it's their identities as well. And you may say, well, some people are just naturally quiet and don't share everything online, which I completely agree with. When I first put this all together, I genuinely thought I was just jumping to conclusions. But then I thought about Emma Stone. Now, if you watched any interview with her from like 2010 to 2019, then you would know exactly who she is as a person. She just had this bubbly personality that you could feel through the screen. She made every interviewer's job so easy because of how naturally funny and bright she was. And in saying that, it made me remember that one viral quote that her ex Andrew Garfield said about her.
She came in and she was like a shot of espresso. She's like being bathed in sunlight. She's incredibly energetic and enthusiastic, and she had this sense of play and fun, which was incredibly exciting.
That is the Emma Stone that we all knew. I know that sounds so parasocial and that we don't actually know them as people, but you get what I mean. But now it seems like that person has disappeared. If you watched any of her interviews now, it's almost like she's a different person, completely reserved, says the least amount of words possible, and just politely smiles. At first, I really wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, but Emma Stone is not a naturally shy person. We literally have 15 years of evidence to prove that. The only other thing that's changed about her recently is that she's gotten thinner and has had plastic surgery on her face. And to many people, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that this is plastic surgery because it looks so nice. But when you compare her to how she used to look, you can really see the difference. She had such a unique face, and now she just kind of looks like everyone else, which is so sad. But now I'm realizing that it's not just her looks that have blended into everyone else, it's her personality too. And from here, I started to think about other celebrities who had big personalities. Selena Gomez, Billie Eilish, Ariana Grande. And that's when it hit me. This isn't a coincidence. Every single one of these celebrities, their size went down and then their personalities went with it. Like they were all connected. Recently, there has been a lot of conversation about how different the content was on TikTok back when it first started blowing up in 2019. And I actually have a weird amount of insight into this conversation because what a lot of people don't know is that 17-year-old me had a little bit of a following back then. And by a little following, I mean 2.1 million, which is kind of embarrassing to say out loud, but for the sake of journalism, I feel like it's only right. Anyway, I can back up the fact that TikTok was a completely different world back then. It was basically sold to us as the rebirth of Vine, and for a while that's exactly what it felt like. People were making the same kind of chaotic little comedy videos, and it was honestly so much fun. But the one thing I think people forget is how limited it was. You could only film your videos within the app, and each one had a 15-second time limit. You couldn't even put text on the screen back then, so if you wanted to add captions or context, you literally had to write it backwards on a piece of paper and hold it towards the camera, which sounds completely insane, but at the time it was just normal. About a year later, as the app started to get bigger, the content began to slowly change. TikTok stopped feeling like this cursed little comedy app and started becoming cool. Dancing took over, Charli D'Amelio and Addison Rae became huge, and suddenly everything was just a bit more mainstream. But it wasn't all bad. Even with the rise of more polished content, people were still being creative. Like in 2020, when everyone was making those ridiculous acting POV videos where they would create the most unhinged scenarios. Of course, my favorite were the ones where they would act like they were being sold to One Direction. Just pure cinema. And yeah, maybe we were cringe back then, but hey, at least we were free. I feel like the real change came when TikTok introduced the 1-minute feature. Because the second people got more time, suddenly everyone was a vlogger. They were posting get ready with me's, beauty routines, morning routines, night routines, skin routines, just endless footage of attractive people moisturizing in good lighting. It was crazy how how quick the app changed to be more focused on looks and lifestyle, it really felt like it just turned into Instagram. By that point, comedy was on life support, and this is where I stopped making content because I didn't want to have to change my style in order to fit in with what was popular. Don't get me wrong, I did try for like a couple months, but it just did not work. Surprisingly, dancing is still very popular on the app, but it is very different to how it used to be. What started as actual dancers doing difficult routines, which usually required some level of talent, slowly turned into the same handful of moves over and over again to different songs. And that's not even a joke, literally every dance has the same stupid steps. Because now, it's not really about dancing, it's about looking good on camera. And that is basically the summary of what TikTok became. It stopped rewarding people for being original and started rewarding people for looking good. And because that is something that everyone can do with no effort or talent, everyone started to become the same person. The same mannerisms, the same facial expressions, the same talking voice, the same fashion, the same makeup. I'm not joking, when you scroll through TikTok, it feels like the same woman cloned herself a million times and just gave every version a slightly different Stanley Cup. Nobody is too loud or too messy, and I absolutely hate it. I find it so boring. Because old TikTok was embarrassing, yes, but at least people felt like actual people. Now everyone feels like they've been through the same TikTok boot camp to become this soulless, perfect girl. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just a random internet trend. There is a reason why this perfect type of girl is being pushed to the top. And honestly, I think the reason is a lot darker than people may think. But I will talk about that in a minute. Firstly, I need to talk about the lengths that people will go to achieve this ideal persona, and the only way I can do it is by talking about the lady at the very top. Miss Hailey Bieber, one of the most influential public figures of this generation. I know that statement is easy to laugh at because it sounds a bit ridiculous, especially for the people who don't really know who she is, but I promise you it is 100% true. The sheer scale of her influence genuinely needs to be studied. One day, Hailey posted a little lip sync video where it looks like she was casually chewing on some weird plastic thing. Now, if literally anyone else had posted this, everyone would simply scroll past it and probably forget it about 2 seconds later. But because this is Hailey Bieber, the internet decided that they need to desperately find out what she was chewing on so they could chew on the same thing. People were zooming into the video, analyzing every single frame, and when they finally found that it was just a simple disposable Colgate toothbrush, those things sold out instantly. Not only that, you had other brands trying to recreate that product so they could get in on the demand. But it gets even more insane. A couple of months ago, she posted a video of herself eating sushi whilst wearing a face mask. Just a casual random video. Now tell me why in the following weeks, my entire For You page was full of girls desperately trying to do the exact same thing and failing miserably. People were genuinely irritated that their face masks weren't sitting just right like hers was. It's like she has them under a spell. But the time I got really concerned was a few weeks ago when she did this campaign where she applied her moisturizer with a comb. Clearly, this is for some kind of photo shoot and not to be taken seriously at all. Well, that's at least what I thought. And yet, the next day when I woke up, I saw hundreds of videos of girls applying their moisturizers with a comb. It actually feels like some kind of social experiment. Like, how are these people real? It literally feels like that scene in Mean Girls where they cut Regina's top to try and embarrass her, but instead it became a trend and the whole school copied it. If I was in Hailey's shoes, I would try to see how far I could take things. I would make a post saying that I used dirt as an exfoliator just to see how many people would actually copy it. Because when I tell you that people would follow her off a cliff, I mean it. And yes, I know that not everyone's participating in these trends, but her influence goes even wider than this. In 2022, she launched her brand Rhode Beauty, and it sold out in 3 days with over 440,000 people on the waiting list. Rhode Beauty got so successful these past few years that she actually just sold the company for $1 billion. It feels like every week she creates a new micro trend that millions of women try to copy, like strawberry milk makeup and glazed donut nails. Oh, and you know that phone case that everyone has that lip gloss holder in the back of it? Yeah, she created that. For crying out loud, she even made slick back hair popular again. I've honestly never seen that level of influence before, where everything she touches becomes a trend. But here's the question I want to ask, and I want you to really sit with it for a second. What does Hailey actually say? What does she believe? What is her position on anything? What is her actual personality beyond the aesthetics? And I genuinely cannot answer that question. Not because she doesn't have a personality, I'm sure she does, but because the persona that she presents to the world is almost entirely aesthetics. Here's my skincare routine, here's my beautiful house, here's my Air One smoothie that you can buy for $18. Of course, it's all very beautiful, but it's also the most content I have ever seen. Like it exists purely to make you want the things that she has. Her life, her skin, her products, and when you strip all of that away, there is barely a person there. Which, you know, isn't usually a thing I would think twice about. I actually like her, she's doing her thing, she's successful, so who cares, right? But then I really start to think about the fact that she is truly one of the most influential people in the world right now. Someone who young people are watching and aspiring to be like. Not because of her ideas or her artistry or her perspective on the world, but because of her aesthetic. And I can't help but think if that quiet, polished image is connected to the other celebrities we see today. I don't know if anyone else remembers this, but a couple of years ago, Hailey Bieber was so hated online. Probably the most hated person on the internet for a good few years. And that is because of how much people loved Selena Gomez, and because Hailey is now married to her ex Justin Bieber, they would pin these two women against each other and they always took Selena's side. Selena is someone who was known for having a big personality, people loved who she was as a person, but for some reason in this past, I think it was only been like a couple of years, they've completely switched places. People now love Hailey and absolutely hate Selena. And I think I have found out why. To explain this, I want to take a look at Jennifer Lawrence, who was one of the most beloved actresses of the 2010s. And that wasn't just because she was talented. No, people idolized her because she was so authentically herself. She was funny, self-deprecating, and always joking about how hungry she was. Her personality was absolutely huge, and for the longest time, people loved it. But then overnight, completely for no reason, the public started to turn on her. People were sick of her. They no longer found her relatable or funny. She went from being everyone's favorite person to someone who the internet collectively decided was now annoying. I'm not joking, the backlash she received was so extreme, you would think that she came out and said that she loved stealing from charities. It pretty much became a trend to mock her. SNL did a sketch where Ariana Grande just essentially took the piss out of her personality. This was all too much for Jennifer, and she decided that the best thing that she could do was to basically go into hiding for the next few years. No social media presence, no making movies, nothing. And when she came back a few years later, she was almost like a shell of her former self. Super quiet, more private, and very, very polished. Interestingly, the public welcomed this new persona with open arms, showing her that they love this new version of herself. What I find devastating is that in a recent interview, Jennifer basically said that she finds the old version of herself annoying and that she cringes when she sees old clips. Although I don't know the exact moment people decided to turn against her, what I do know is that the same people who built her up were the ones to immediately tear her down. People always say that they want women to be outspoken and messy and real, but only in a way that stays fun for them. The second you cross that line, you are out. And I found that this vicious cycle has gotten even worse in the past few years. Just look at what happened to Chapel Roan. At the start, everyone was obsessed with her boldness and the way that she stood on business. Like the time she put a rude cameraman in his place at an award show. But the second she set a real boundary and told fans that she didn't like them coming up to her in public because too many of them had violated her, now it's too much. Now she's being annoying and ungrateful. It's like the moment a woman is loud in a way that's not cute anymore, everyone starts acting like she needs to be tranquilized. It's the same thing that happened with Selena Gomez. She spoke too loud, she said her opinion too much, and suddenly everyone is now calling her annoying and choosing Hailey Bieber, the girl who is quiet and doesn't speak out on things. So it's no wonder celebrities keep their mouths shut now. It makes sense why all the personality has basically been PR trained out of them. Because look at what every single woman who is thriving right now has in common. They're smaller, their bodies are smaller, their personalities are smaller, they take up less space in every single way possible. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think there is something much bigger going on here that is directly affecting all of us and has been hiding in plain sight. And trust me, it's going to scare you. So everyone looks the same, acts the same, and now, surprise, everyone wants to live the same too. There is a very specific vision of the perfect woman's day that has completely dominated the internet recently. She does Pilates, she drinks matcha, she goes on a hot girl walk, she has plain outfits without a single drop of color, and she leaves the house wearing Hailey Bieber's under eye patches. And look, I'm not here to mock anyone's morning routine, genuinely, but I do think it's worth asking, when did a lifestyle become a personality? When did I go to Pilates and drink matcha become a full answer to the question of who are you as a person? Everyone wants to be this clean girl who is trending now, but what does that actually mean? Because here's what I started noticing. The cleaner the lifestyle got, the smaller it got too. And suddenly, everything was pointing to one direction: home. I remember a few years ago when vlog content on TikTok would be girls doing a day in their life at their job or showing themselves traveling. But now, the same day in the life videos seem to never leave the house. They mainly consist of cooking, cleaning, tending to things in the home, and not in a I had a long week and I'm just chilling kind of way. It's in a very intentional, really aesthetic, specific kind of way. All tied up in a pretty pink bow with the exact same hashtag: tradwife. And before you click off this video, I know how it sounds, but stay with me because I do believe that understanding the tradwife trend is so essential to understanding what is happening to women as a whole right now. A tradwife, short for traditional wife, is a woman who centers her identity around traditional domestic roles. Things like cooking from scratch, cleaning the house, and raising children whilst the husband is out at work. A creator called Ballerina Farm pretty much mainstreamed this kind of content a few years ago. She lives on this beautiful farm and posts videos of herself baking sourdough from scratch, milking cows, and raising a ridiculous number of children. It's all shot in this extremely romanticized way with her flowy dresses and beautiful lighting like it's some kind of dream. And people eat these videos up, but the comments are full of girls saying, I want this kind of life, I would trade everything for this. It's not being seen as content, it's being seen as a goal. Like, this is the ideal life. And I get why they think that. She presents her content like it's this simple way of life, like being a tradwife is easy and carefree. But interestingly, here's what she chooses to not say out loud. Her husband is the son of the founder of JetBlue Airways and has a net worth of over $400 million. That kitchen stove that she uses, which gives the whole farmhouse aesthetic, cost $20,000. Like, excuse me, you are not baking sourdough on a $20,000 stove because you are living a simple life, you are doing it because you are extremely wealthy. They are not the same thing. I do think that the fact that she's presenting it in such a romanticized way is dangerous. And I want to make it very clear that I am not saying that women who want to stay home are bad or anti-feminist. That is not my point. I completely understand how it's appealing. It's safe to say that the girl boss era really burned some people out. Women were told to work like men, to look perfect, to stay sexually appealing, to build a career, to heal their trauma, and somehow call all of it empowerment. No wonder some women looked at that and thought, actually, I'd rather just make soup in a really nice dress. I get it, I really do. But the problem is, this tradwife aesthetic isn't really freedom either. It just looks better on camera. Because online, you only ever see the nice parts. The bread, the babies, the beautiful kitchen. You don't see the power imbalance. You don't see how much that fantasy life relies on money and a man continuing to provide that for you. And that's a vulnerable position for anyone to be in, man or woman. But it seems like this aesthetic is only escalating because we've now seen the rise of the Gen Z version of this trend. The stay-at-home girlfriend. This trend with over 12 million videos shows young child-free women in their 20s who post their day-to-day lives being financially supported by their boyfriends. They do Pilates, run errands, make smoothies, keep the apartment clean, and film themselves doing it. I'm just kind of realizing now how dangerous that is, because unlike the traditional wife, you are not locked in with a contract. What happens if your boyfriend cheats or breaks up with you? You are literally left with nothing. That is so dangerous. But again, if that's what you want to do it. I'm not here to tell anyone how to live their life. But when this many women are moving in that same direction, that's when it stops feeling like a personal choice and starts feeling like a pattern. And you can see that pattern in celebrity culture as well. Because this version of femininity that's being pushed right now isn't just about being attractive, it's about being contained. Look at the whole clean girl aesthetic that's popular right now and people like Hailey Bieber who are pioneering it. It's calm, it's effortless, but it's also very quiet. It's like you're purposely trying to blend in and not take up too much space. bodies. And at a certain point, you're not just shrinking your body or personality anymore, you're shrinking your whole identity. And what you end up being left with is something a bit more childlike. Again, I know that sounds like such a weird thing to say, but just hear me out. Has anyone else noticed the sheer amount of trends recently that revolve around infantilizing women? I'm not just talking about the rise of fashion trends like Lolita and Coquette. I'm talking about the huge viral trends that pretty much take the piss out of women. And these are coming from women, by the way. Let me explain. This started off super fun and casual with trends like girl dinner. This is where women would post videos of their dinner, which would basically just consist of random snacks. A piece of bread, some cheese and crackers, you know, the kind of things you throw together when you just can't be bothered to cook. I found this trend hilarious because I too have the occasional girl dinner, which usually just consists of popcorn and chocolate at the cinema. But then annoyingly, as the trend started to grow, it started to change. Basically, the portions got a lot smaller. As soon as I saw people posting that their girl dinner was just a singular olive, I knew the trend was over. It almost became like a competition to see who could have the smallest girl dinner, and I think that perfectly sums up the type of culture we're in right now. Anyway, my point still remains the same, that this was fun at first. And then we have a trend called girl math, which again started off as a harmless joke about women trying to justify their purchases. They would say things like, oh, if I pay with cash, then it's technically free because it's not coming out of my account. And honestly, I agree. Cash doesn't feel like real money at all. But just like clockwork, the jokes started to become less jokey and more insulting. Because suddenly the joke wasn't just, I've convinced myself this lipstick was an investment, the joke was basically women are financially stupid. Then we have the recent trend, I'm Just a Girl, where girls will excuse something stupid that they did by posting it to the song I'm Just a Girl by Gwen Stefani. Not understanding basic instructions, I'm just a girl. Crashing their car into a tree, I'm just a girl. They use the fact that they're a girl as an excuse for being dumb as rocks. But what's so ironic is that this trend goes completely against what the original song was saying. Literally, the next line after I'm Just a Girl is, that's all you'll let me be. The whole song is feminine rage about being trapped in the I'm just a girl framing. It's about being dismissed and underestimated and treated like you can't handle things just because you have boobs. It is not, oops, I can't do basic tasks because I have a tiny girl brain. Ugh, I actually can't tell you how angry this trend makes me. It is straight up internalized misogyny, and I am so tired of people hiding behind the fact that it's just a joke. It is not just a joke. But it just gets even worse because from here, it pretty much snowballed in a really disturbing way. Basically, these trends went from women poking fun at themselves to women acting like literal children. Let me run you through some of my favorites. Turning my brain off around my boyfriend. Being good at the blue store so I can get something from the pink store. And my personal favorite, coloring whilst my boyfriend is at his big boy job. Sorry, what are we doing here? Why are we role-playing as little girls? It actually feels like I'm living in a simulation. How have we regressed so much as a society? What are we doing? This is where the whole thing ties together so perfectly that it makes me feel kind of ill. We've gone through the body, we've gone through the personality, we've gone through the lifestyle. All of these trends are pushing the exact same ideal woman. She's tiny, she's pretty, she's quiet, she's childlike, and she doesn't have any real opinions or ambition. Women are literally being told to shrink themselves in every sense of the word, and society is literally rewarding them for it. Emma Stone steps out on the red carpet with a completely new face and 2 sizes smaller, and the internet's reaction is to tell her how much better she looks. So many of us are feeding into this culture change without even noticing it. And obviously, I'm not saying that every woman with a slick back bun is the downfall of civilization. I'm not putting down anyone who drinks matcha or does Pilates. That is not the point of the video. The point is what all of this does together, because it's all leading to the same place. Smaller bodies, smaller personalities, smaller lives. And the body is always where it shows up first. Once that becomes the goal, everything else follows. I'm watching people lose themselves as individuals, and I can't tell you how sad that makes me. I literally feel like I'm about to cry. I saw a video the other day that said that someone who was 25 in 2011 is now 40 years old. And as someone who is 24, I had to put my phone down for a second and actually take time to process how fast time is moving. Because what are we doing? Shrinking ourselves for what? For trends that change every 5 minutes? For people online who don't even know us? Go outside, be loud, be cringe, wear that outfit, eat that food, eat whatever you want. Because we never know when this is gonna end, and I know that sounds so morbid, but it's true. So who cares if you're not a size 0 or if you're being too much? The only thing that's actually scary is looking back and realizing that you've made yourself smaller for no reason. But anyway, I know this is a little bit of a different video from me, so please let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know your opinion on this whole situation. I cannot wait to read them. And if you made it this far, please comment the word human so I can see the people who don't have short attention spans and I can like all of your comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!